So thank you all for being here. Really, really appreciate it. The reason why we are here is to highlight the Master's in Education program in higher education at Iowa State and give folks the opportunity to find out more about the program, to ask questions about the application program, about the curriculum of the program and things like that. I think real fast, why don't we go ahead and start with introductions? So Doug, why don't you go ahead and start?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Doug Smith. I'm an associate professor of higher education and community college leadership. I lend support in teaching in the master's program and our doc program in higher ed leadership.
Zoe.
Hi all, I'm Zoe Thornton. I am an assistant professor of practice in higher education. I also work with the M.Ed program online, as well as our doctorate programs and community college leadership professional development program with our community colleges in Iowa. Thanks for being here.
And Anne.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anne Fagan, and I am here briefly just to introduce myself. I serve as the Director of Graduate Education for the School of Education at Iowa State. And so I am thrilled that you are seeking more information about our M.Ed program in education with an emphasis in higher ed. And I welcome you to get in touch with me with any additional questions you have. I also want to make you aware of one of our staff members, Sarah Goplin, who will be a helpful person as you are moving through the process of being admitted and then in all of the assorted documentation that goes with completing a degree at Iowa State. So welcome.
Thank you. And my name is Erin Doran. I'm an assistant professor in the higher education program. My teaching is usually split between the master's program and the EDD program. And I am teaching for those who will be starting in the fall. I'll be teaching the second course that you'll be taking in the fall. So welcome. We're thrilled that you're here and are spending part of your day with us. So one of the things that we want to emphasize is this is a fairly informal webinar. We do want folks to feel comfortable asking questions as they arise. So don't feel don't feel badly if you need to interrupt. And we certainly don't want you to forget your questions. The other thing is we may not have all of the answers. So if we don't have the answer, let us know. We can always follow up with you. Either by getting an answer from Anne Fagan or from Sarah Goplin, who's our graduate support specialist. Some things that we wanted to start out with is, first of all, why pursue a graduate degree? This is a big decision, I think, especially given where the world is right now with the pandemic, and why take on more things, especially things that are commitments of time and money. And I think that these 5 points are not mutually exclusive. They overlap one another. A desire to want to move up in your current position, wanting to know more about the students and the communities that you work with. We do feel like this master's program is rigorous and will provide students with opportunities to feel like they are prepared for doctoral level work after they graduate, if that's a track or at least an option that you want to be able to have. As corny as it may sound, you know, we want to work with students who have a love of learning and just an intellectual curiosity about the field, and then just also folks who are interested in attaining a graduate degree. I mean, it's perfectly valid to say, well, I want a master's degree, that's why I'm here. So Zoe, Doug, anything, you feel free to pop in here anytime you feel like it. So as far as the program goes, our programmatic structure is we are housed within the Division of Higher Education in the School of Higher Education. There are two divisions, the other one being teaching, leadership, and learning. And then our program, our particular division offers two master's programs. So there's an M.Ed in higher education. There's also an M.Ed in student affairs. That one is on campus. It is a residential program and is something where students who participate in that program are doing on campus or off campus internships and practicums and things like that. Dang it, I thought I updated it. So our MED in higher education actually has 2 concentrations, not 3. So the 2 that we will be highlighting are the Community College Leadership Program and then the Higher Education Administration Program. So 2, not 3. It's not a PowerPoint that I've done if there's not a mistake somewhere in it. So as far as the programmatic structure goes, all of the students, regardless of their track, will take 7 courses together. And I will actually show what the list is in a sec. The program is set up so that students take 6 hours or 2 classes per semester, including the summers. So students who start in the fall 2020 semester and remain on that 2-course track, including summer enrollment, will be graduating in May 2022. So it takes a little under 2 full years to complete. And then each course in the fall and spring semester will be offered in 8-week formats. So students who start in fall will start the fall semester for the first 8 weeks, taking Intro to American Higher Education. And then about the 3rd week in October, that course will end and they will begin taking Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the rest of the semester. And that way, that gives students the time to be able to focus on 1 course at a time rather than juggling multiple courses, especially during the fall and spring. The summer courses that are offered, the length of those courses, they're probably going to be a little bit shorter than the 8 weeks just to be able to fit the 2 classes within the summer structure. So they could be probably 4 to 6 week courses rather than 8 weeks during the fall and spring. So this is what it looks like, and I'm happy to send this to anybody, the list of courses, to folks who are interested in it. That's something that you can just email me that I can very easily send to you. But the fall and spring, or the first year, so fall through summer 1, all students, regardless of their emphasis area, will be taking courses together. And then it's really the fall 2 where the students break into their sub-area courses, and there are 9 hours of differences between the 2 tracks. But this is a revamp to the MED coursework. We do feel like we were able to listen to the needs of what higher education professionals need from a master's program, to think about, leadership, the resource management, the equity and social justice aspects to it, and to merge all of those together. So hopefully students who graduate from this program feel like they are well prepared for whatever track or whatever professional goal they have for themselves. So community college leadership, for folks who are particularly interested in issues related to the 2-year college sector. Within that, the sub-area courses that students will take are the comprehensive community college, community and college partnerships, and then the final course is current topics in community colleges. I think that something that should be said is that in the first 21 hours of the coursework, we really design our courses so that students can focus on the issues and the sectors that are relevant to them or of interest to them. So if you're taking equity, diversity, and inclusion with me in the fall semester, there's still going to be readings that speak to 2-year and 4-year institutions and ways that students can explore the community college sector outside of just these 3 courses. So don't feel like if you are interested in community college leadership, you're only going to get exposed to that content or have the ability to explore issues related to community colleges just in these 3 courses. We really want to be mindful that we serve a diverse higher education population, and diverse in terms of interests, in terms of professional goals and things like that. So yes, it's 3 courses, but you'll have much more flexibility beyond just these 3 courses. As far as higher education administration goes, the sub-area courses will be the campus environments and cultures, the history of American higher education, and then the current topics in higher education administration. These current topics courses are intentionally broad in terms of giving the instructors and the students the opportunity to really talk about whatever the issues of that day or that semester or what's going on. So, you know, I think certainly if we were preparing to teach the class, you know, in the fall semester, we would be talking about COVID, we would be talking about online teaching. It's a way to sort of process what's going on and prepare folks who might be entering the profession or getting ready to hopefully make a leap into a higher level position, and how we can prepare you for that. And the higher education administration track, I think something that should be said as well is that this is not just for folks who were interested in four-year, you know, academic affairs jobs. If we have students who are interested in student affairs but can't necessarily do an on-campus residential program, this might be a track where you can get some of that content. We would invite students who are interested in public institutions, private institutions, for-profit, nonprofit, et cetera. Again, the purpose of our courses and the way that we have set up our curriculum is to really give students the opportunities to tailor their courses, particularly the papers they write, some of the readings that they do, the assignments that they complete, in a way that makes sense to them and is applicable to them. So how do I get in? One, there's an online application. We have a statement of purpose that is required. So some of the things that we are looking for are the goals or purpose in pursuing an advanced degree, what your professional background is, your areas of interest within education, specifically within higher education. We want to make sure that this is a program that is going to meet your needs and that you will have a good fit with. Current resume, 3 references who will provide letters of support. With this, we ask that you don't ask your friends or people from your personal life. We really do want to see references from your professional life, from your academic life. So past or current supervisors, past or current instructors, people who know you in a higher education professional capacity. Official copies of your transcripts, TOEFL scores if those are applicable. Something to keep in mind, the GRE is not required. And this is also a non-competitive admissions process. So there is not a certain number of slots that we are looking to fill. We don't have a waitlist capacity or anything like that. So we will take the students who meet the requirements and who appear to be a really good fit for the program. Some other things, fall application deadline is July 15th. I would strongly urge you to send in your materials prior to that, but if something happens and you can't get to it until July 15th, that's fine. We'll still review it up to that date. And then also for folks who do not live in Iowa, one of the great things that we want to highlight is that students in this program who are considered distance education students actually pay in-state tuition and fee rates regardless of where they live. So that's something that we think helps make this program really affordable, particularly for out-of-state students. And then financial aid information. So here are some different links. We can send those out to you and follow up with you after we're done. Something that I think is really timely is I would encourage every graduate student to fill out a FAFSA, regardless of whether or not they intend on taking out loans. Under the CARES Act, there has been emergency aid that has been made available to Iowa State students. And it seems that it is being disproportionately awarded to undergraduate students only because there's so many master's and doctoral students who haven't filled out a FAFSA, and that's one of the conditions for being made eligible for this program. So we don't know what emergency aid might be available 6 months from now, a year from now, but there are a lot of scholarships that are out there, and part of the application process is at least having a FAFSA on file. So I think, again, if you have no intention on taking out loans, that's completely understandable, but having that FAFSA might enable you to become eligible for things like grants and scholarships that you might not otherwise. that you might not otherwise be eligible for. And then also, we encourage folks to look at what their institutions may offer for full-time employees. If there's some sort of tuition remission or tuition reimbursement program, that can be a really important way for folks to complete their education. So let us know if there's ever any sort of documentation that you need from us to be able to tap into those benefits. And then, so I will go ahead and let my colleagues jump in if there's anything that I forgot, but then we definitely want to be able to take questions.
I guess one question I have, and maybe Zoe can shed more light on this because she's taught more of these M.Ed classes. This is my first year at Iowa State. Is Zoe, not to put you on the spot, but can you tell us a little bit more about the way the typical class is formatted and structure-wise? Because we say it's an online program, but that doesn't tell us a whole lot.
Absolutely. So so each course is set up in a asynchronous framework, I guess, with weekly components. Of course, each instructor approaches their course in their own ways. We do use Canvas as our online course management system, and it's having used a few different online course platforms myself, I have found Canvas to be the most maybe intuitive and friendly, at least on the faculty side. So the typical course, I think, is set up, with a weekly content, and you might have recorded lectures or videos to watch, be assigned podcasts to listen to. Of course, there'll be readings from either assigned textbooks or additional peer-reviewed journal articles, other scholarly materials that are available, and then some sort of online discussion or activity. We use discussion boards. There might also be, I have done some activities using Google Docs and such, so it changes it from just a Q&A kind of thing throughout the week to maybe jointly filling in a matrix or taking on a role in case study format. So we try and incorporate some asynchronous activities, and then each of us do incorporate some synchronous activities as well. And so we have used Zoom platform. I think the university is going to WebEx, but we will offer each course, all of our faculty team agree that that synchronous interaction time in real live time format is important to our learning and increasing our shared knowledge and awareness. So we will offer those synchronous meetings as well. Those will not necessarily be required. Again, it depends what that instructor's, for each class, what that instructor's requirements are. But for the most part, those synchronous Zoom or WebEx meetings might be optional, but again, enhance what that learning is for that course. And then of course, points are assigned to all of that. So, so we try to balance the asynchronous and the synchronous, but also making sure that students are well informed and can plan out their week, because again, this program targets working professionals. And so we want to make sure that you have that flexibility and freedom to be able to fit in your study time and coursework time when it fits for you, but also trying to balance what we know are good pedagogical methods and such. So Erin, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, because I know you've done some fun things with your online courses too.
Yeah, so typically what I have done with synchronous meetings that seems to work is that I will typically schedule like 1 hour synchronous meetings, and we'll have several choices over the course of the week, usually 2 choices. So I'll pick like a weekday evening, like 5 to 6 p.m. And then like one day that is during the lunch hour, and folks can opt to attend one. They can attend both if they really want to engage. Or for folks who, I've had people who have just said like, look, I can't make that work. Then I usually offer like a flexible alternate assignment that still fulfills the learning objectives, but that they just will complete individually. And their interaction may be more one-on-one with me asynchronously than with their classmates. But I think that for the courses that I have done that have those synchronous meetings, it really does make a difference in terms of, I think, helping folks feel a little bit more connected, having a face to the name of the people that you will probably be taking a lot of your courses with, because you're in the same program, same format, etc. And so I think it does just make a difference in trying to foster that community. So we have one question that was a really good question, is just what is the thesis requirement, or what is the final project expectation? So this is actually a program that a thesis is not required. There actually is no thesis option, and then there's no capstone requirement. So it is a coursework only degree program. So you take the 10 courses and then you graduate. Yeah, go ahead, Doug. Or were you
Oh,
going
did
to
I
say?
look like I had something insightful to say?
You did.
But no, I think what you're saying about the format, I'm teaching our master's cohort right now, and I have a Zoom scheduled at 4 o'clock, and I've had about 2/3 of the class able to log in live, and the other third participate in an alternative means, being able to watch later and engage online with the group. I think in terms of the thesis, if you're thinking about uh, moving on towards a doctoral degree at some point, sometimes that comes up where we think about, well, I have to have a thesis to apply towards if I want to apply to a doctoral degree. And in my experience at other universities and what I see here at Iowa State, that's not the case. I don't think having a thesis is a critical part of applying to doctoral programs, maybe as it was 15, 20 years ago. So if that's a concern, I wouldn't be so concerned about that. Our courses and our assignments, just from what I've done and what I've seen Aaron, Zoe, and our colleagues do, you'll have your fair shot to engage in scholarly writing activities in our coursework. By and large, most of our assignments in the master's and M.Ed. are writing based, allowing you to engage in current scholarship and literature, to be able to understand what's going on in contemporary issues and in the foundations of the study of higher education. So we do keep in mind, as we revise and think about curriculum, that we're developing this master's program for students that are working full-time, but may see this MED as the final degree that they're going to complete in their career, while we also have other students that this is a one step towards potentially working towards a doctoral degree. So really, either goal that is yours, this MED is set up to support you in that end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think something that I've done more and more too is to have a balance between helping students develop their academic writing skills, but also communication skills that would speak to students broadly, that would speak to administrators and things like that. So what are other ways of encouraging students to maybe develop a podcast, or other educational ways of communicating things like issues about social justice in higher education, that they may develop as part of a professional development series, or just things like that, so that you can think about who your audience is and adapt your communication skills according to whatever works for that context. So are there any other questions that we can answer? We have a couple of students on the call. You're welcome to type in the chat if you'd like. So just wait a sec. Something, some other things to mention is that as a distance student, you still have access to a lot of the different resources at Iowa State, including access to all the library information, all the library databases and things like that. We do have students who are in the area who are welcome to take part in online or on-campus activities. Oh, okay, here's a really, really phenomenal question. What kind of informal or formal support networks exist in this program? Do we have an assigned mentor or can we choose one? So when you're admitted to the program, the faculty in the higher education program will look at the applications, and if we are in agreement to admit a student, we will typically recommend an initial advisor. Just based on basically like balancing the advising load so none of us are overwhelmed with too many master's advisees, but we may also look for things like alignment of research interest or something that might say like, I would be a really good advisor for the student. Maybe there's a little bit more alignment than say Doug. So you'll get an initial advisor. If you connect with a particular faculty member and want to switch advisors, you're absolutely welcome to do so. That's something that we would encourage you to do. It's not awkward. There's no hard feelings for anybody who wants to change their advisor to someone that they feel they connect with. As far as formal support networks, that's something, it's typically based between the student and the advisor or the instructors of the course. I think that the higher education program online so far has been relatively small. So the informal support networks have just been students who maybe work together on the same campus, like say Des Moines Area Community College, and we're just able to connect in person a lot easier than other folks might be. So I think as far as formal support networks, I think that's something that we're going to look into building as we try to grow this program, and what sort of opportunities we can create for the students so they still feel like this is a group effort, not just something that you're doing on your own by yourself in a void, so to speak. As far as, something that I was mentioning, you still have a lot of access to things, on-campus services and things like that you could take advantage of. We have had different resources that have moved a lot of stuff online, things like the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching. Even some of our student health services have been able to move things remote because of COVID-19, and hopefully those are services that they will continue to have remote access to for folks who are off campus. Does anybody want to add anything? You're welcome. Oh, start date. Yeah, absolutely. So someone asked, can you please cover start date? So the start date for the fall semester, our fall semester begins on August 24th. The first, like I said, the first 8 weeks, so the first class that students will take will go until about October 20th, I believe. And then the second one starts around, like, it ends on Friday, and then the next one starts on Monday, which I think is like the 23rd of October or something like that. The fall semester ends usually around December 12th-ish, and then begins again in the spring, usually the week before the Martin Luther King holiday. So. What kind of students are successful in this program? I don't want to hog all the attention. So Zoe, do you want to? We've had, I can just speak from, we've had students who have been all over the place. So I've worked with students who are full-time employees at Iowa State in student affairs and just haven't been able, perhaps like they just don't have the ability to do the full-time on-campus programs, so they take courses with us. We've had folks who are just starting out in their career in higher education, those who might be, 5 to 7 years in the community college sector. I've had folks who were teachers at like Grandview University, which is a private institution in the Des Moines area. We've had folks from all over the country who are all over the place. One of our recent grads just got accepted to a doctoral program in Minnesota. Zoe, what are other examples?
We've had students just entering into higher ed. We've had students who've been working in higher education for multiple years. Graduate 2 years ago had actually been at her institution for 18 years and just said, you know what, it's time that I get a master's degree because I love what I'm doing, but the reality is if I want to be able to take that next step, I need it. And she was thrilled with the new perspectives and the theory-based frameworks that she learned. So she actually wasn't anticipating learning a whole lot because of her 18 years working in the sector, but was thrilled with how much she learned and the connections that she made also through her cohort. So I think another thing to note is that, because we are online and we have a lot, or our basic framework is asynchronous, you do have to make time for yourself. You have to make time for yourself to be a student. And so that means, planning that out and finding your time a few times throughout each week that you are a student. And so starting and at least checking in on Mondays or Tuesdays, and then knowing that you're going to be checking in again a couple more times throughout the week. So while we serve busy working professionals, you still have to make that time. But we, again, we do what we can to make sure that it is flexible, so that regardless of what your busyness looks like in both your professional and your personal worlds, we have lots of parents as students in our program too. Regardless of what that looks like, our flexibility, I think with the program allows you to define your student time for yourself wherever that fits best in your week. Another thing I would say also is maintaining communication with your instructor or your advisor. I work a lot individually with students, again, because of our online-based framework. For instance, if you cannot attend a synchronous meeting, catching up. Erin also talked about being able to tailor some of your course assignments and projects to your own interests within higher ed. A lot of that is done in collaboration with your instructor or your advisor as well. So maintaining good communication with those important folks is real important to your success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that I would add, when I build my online courses, I try to create a rhythm to the course that is predictable to students. So typically all of my assignments, either for the week or for the course, will be due on Sundays by midnight or things like that, so that I don't have assignments where like something might be due on Tuesday and then like next week it's due on Thursday or something like that. So what are ways that I think we can tailor courses to fit into your life, hopefully in a way that you feel like is manageable, rather than being really overwhelming. And I have yet to work with a student where we just couldn't figure out how to make it work. Like we will do our best on an individual basis to get you through the class in a rigorous way, but also a really humane way. Oh, this is a great question. So what's the average size of the online cohort and what kinds of interactions can we expect to have with them online? So over the last couple of years, our cohorts have been around 8 to 10. This is the first year that we're really trying to build a cohort of higher education administration students and community college leadership students rather than just having them all together. And so, you know, I think we have admitted about 10 students for the fall semester so far. Like I said, we're still accepting applications. There's not really a limit to that. I highly, highly doubt that you would ever be in a cohort that was more, or in a class that was more than 20 students. After 20, that starts getting difficult to teach and difficult to manage. You know, some things that I would say is, like, if I have a class that's usually bigger than about 12 to 15, then one of the things that I'll start doing is using the Canvas function to divide students into groups, so that they can have smaller group discussions, rather than just talking to 15 people and hoping that their response is seen and responded to in turn and stuff like that. As far as interactions, again, you know, something that's always mentioned is we do a mix of asynchronous and synchronous. Um, I am starting to try to build in a little bit of group work with students where that can work, and it just kind of depends on the class. That group work might be peer review of projects or papers. It might be a group project. It just depends, again, on the format of the class. I think you can certainly expect to see you know, discussion boards or discussion posts. And we do our best to make those a bit more interactive and not just something that you feel like you're just checking the box. To do, you know, something that I'll be incorporating into my equity, diversity, and inclusion class in the fall will be case studies for folks to discuss. Zoe, do you want to add anything else to that?
Case studies are fun. I would, I try to also do some role playing, again, in those asynchronous discussion boards. So making those a bit more engaging, so you really want to return a couple times throughout the week. And, so I find ways, or either using case studies or questions, and I try to assign roles. Sometimes that's in a smaller group, and whether it's advocating for or against, or maybe in the case of a policy, you know, you are the college president, and the other few folks are actually the state legislators, so that you're kind of asked to think about these issues and topics from new perspectives, and frame that maybe in a perspective that you wouldn't normally be advocating for in your current professional role. So that's some fun way, you know, looking for fun ways to approach those asynchronous discussion and activities is kind of a goal that many of us faculty are taking on too, because we do want that to be engaging, and the more engaging and fun it is, then the more you're going to learn and broaden that as well as applying it. So.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely welcome. We're happy to answer any other questions that you may have. So something that I wanted to highlight is, you know, here are our email addresses. So you are absolutely welcome to email us at any time if there's any classes or information that you thought of after we ended the Zoom meeting that you wanted to find out more. Something that Dr. Fagan had mentioned, or someone I should say that you should know, is Sarah Gofflin, who is our graduate program assistant. So essentially, you know, if you've ever requested information from the School of Education, it was Sarah who probably responded to you. She's the one who handles the applications, like receives them from the grad colleges. Grad college gets them to us to review. She's the one, oh, I'm sorry, I put, Zoe's email is ZM Thorn, not Thornton. So sorry, I'll get that. I'll get that in the chat if anybody needs it. But Sarah is the one who really helps facilitate just everything grad student wise. So once you're in the program, doing things like filing a program of study and whatever graduation paperwork you need before you graduate, she's the one who helps facilitate that and who can always help troubleshoot and things like that. So she's just a good person to be aware of. She does a lot for our programs in the School of Education. So I can wait you know, a few more minutes to see if any other questions come through. But other than that, thank you very much for attending this webinar. We were really glad to be able to answer questions, provide this information, and hopefully we will see your applications for the fall semester. Anything else? All right, Doug, Zoe, anything else to add?
No, thank you for joining us. Great questions that were asked. I appreciate that. And thanks for hearing us out. We look forward to reviewing your applications and seeing you in the fall.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us and asking questions. And thanks to our lead recruiter, Aaron.
Well, great. Well, for everybody, you know, enjoy the rest of your week. Hope it's a great summer. And then we look forward to seeing you in the fall semester as graduate students in our program.
See ya.
Bye.